once again to the OnStage Colorado Podcast. I'm Alex Miller here with arts reporter and man about town, Toni Tresca. How's it going, Toni?
Hey, Alex. Good to be here with you. I noticed we got a lot of interest in our episode last week where we ran down what we thought of what were the best shows so far of 2024.
Yeah, for sure. You know, those kinds of lists tend to be a little, I don't know, clickbaity, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word. But yeah, people, I was really pleased to see that people were, reacting to it and really happy that they were on the list.
Yeah, it was fun to see. A ton of people were sharing clips from it on social media and just kind of posting about that. And so it was cool to see the theater community reacting to that. So thank you to all of the theater producers and theater companies for listening in and sharing clips from that episode. It means a lot to know that you're out there listening.
Yeah, for sure. So because that was so successful, I think we should do the first half of 2024 plus the first 3 weeks of July, for more clickbait. You think? Maybe? No? All right.
I think that might be just a tad too desperate, Alex.
Overkill. Okay. All right. Well, just a thought. So we're recording on July 21st here on Sunday. So keep that in mind when we talk about things like yesterday or today. But hey, I wanted to ask you, I got an email from this, I guess, newish website called Bucket List that you're going to become their new editor. Can you tell us about Bucket List, this website?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will be starting the editor position there on August 5th. And Bucket List Community Cafe is a free, hyper-local, neighborly news for the Denver area. It's a kind of solutions-oriented journalism outlet. They've got an audience of about 900,000 to over about 1 million readers. And I'm looking forward to getting started with them and working with their publisher over there, Vicki Collins, who has really built this outlet from kind of the ground up. She comes from a TV background, a TV journalism background, but this was kind of her bucket list, was to kind of build up the journalism environment here in Denver, where she's from. So excited to work with her, the rest of the staff, and then the student journalism team that they work with from DU, MSU, CU Boulder, and a couple of other universities to kind of build up this site and continue producing some excellent content over there. So they're still working on getting my email set up, but as soon as I get that work email set up, I will share it with folks in case you guys have any pitches for stuff that you want to get over on Bucket List.
That's great. Yeah, your first editor job. They grow up so fast. I think I was a little older than you before I had my first editor job, but it's fun. It's like editing is a whole different kind of thing than writing, and it's something that's take a little while to learn. But I'm sure you'll jump right in and figure it out. So yeah,
I think so, and it felt right. I quite literally got a call from Vicki with this position on my birthday, and so I was like, this feels like the universe telling me it's a good way to start the new year. You got to take this opportunity. So I did.
All right. So that's bucketlistcommunitycafe.com, I think is the URL. And
that's right.
So this continues Tony's takeover of all front major media. So he's appearing in all publications, from Westward to Boulder Weekly to OnStage Colorado and Bucket List. And
first Bucket List and then the world.
Yes, there we go. All right. Well, as usual, we're going to be going over the latest live theater news, some shows that we've seen recently, and a look ahead to what's coming up on stage around the state. But first, our main topic this week, we wanted to talk about some of our favorite places to see a show. And I have to say, Toni, I was kind of racking my brain for a topic this week since, I don't know, just kind of, maybe it's the middle of the summer, it's hot, I just couldn't think of things. Then I thought, well, let's talk about, I was thinking about, actually, when I was at the Denver Center last night with my buddy Matt, we went to go see that Second City show, and we were it was really quiet. I think it was just about the only show. I think there was a wedding going on at the Sewell Ballroom, but other than that, it was like the Post and Prelude was closed, the Buell was dark, everything was dark. But we were just talking about how much we loved going there, even especially when you come out and there's people all over the place, and you're going to have to go into the parking garage, but still, it's exciting to see all the people, checking out shows down there. So that got me thinking about venues and places I like to go.
I think that's a good one, and it gives us another list to talk through and share out. So it kind of keeps the trend going.
Yeah,
from last week.
So we'll talk about that. And then a little later in the episode, we have an interview that you did with April Alsup. And did you want to tease that real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So I chat with April. Actually, we recorded our conversation live in person at the First Baptist Church, Denver, where the band, the musical, is rehearsing. This is an original musical about kind of polarizing debate around gender. And so this conversation that I had with April is at her piano, where she plays a couple of songs and snippets from the score for me as we kind of talk through the creation of the show as well as the plot itself. So it's a fun show. It'll be at Vintage before it heads to Scotland for the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in August. So that conversation is coming later. So stick around.
Yeah, check that out in just a little bit. So thinking about what we've seen. So you and I were at the Merry Wives of Windsor last weekend at the Colorado Shakespeare Festival show in the Row Green Theater
We were
on the CU campus. And our reviewer Alice Caterland had kind of said it was kind of overly silly. It was, they did this whole 70s sitcom thing to it that I think we sort of agreed with her that it was a little over the top. But I don't know. What was your take?
Yeah, I said pretty much as just this. Very similar to Alice in my review for Boulder Weekly. Style over substance, it felt like to me. And as somebody who did not grow up with those television shows that they were referencing, like All in the Family, Three's Company, Jeffersons, all of those references flew right over my head. And so it just felt a little flat for me.
Yeah. Not to say that there weren't some of our favorite actors still on stage there and running around having a lot of fun, like Jacob Dresch and Antonia Antweiler and I'm sorry, Noelia Antweiler. And who else? There was
Sean Scretchens is great there.
He's great. Yeah, in that show.
Absolutely. I'm never going to complain about these people getting paychecks. I love these actors. I love to see them on stage. Just for me, it didn't quite, all the pieces did not quite work.
Yeah. So you and I saw this Second City show. This is at the Garner Galleria through August 11th. And this is, Second City from, Chicago, Toronto, New York. I think they've got their headquarters, but this was a kind of a touring show that I had a really good time at. I thought it was a lot of fun. What was your take on it?
I was about to say the same thing. After their last show, the Broadway kind of inspired piece that they did that I thought fell pretty flat. This one was I thought a really fun delight. It was a really good balance between the scripted sketch comedy portions that I thought really were pretty funny throughout. A lot of summer themes and reoccurring jokes about dads on vacation that I thought actually were very funny. And then mixed with the actual kind of short form improv that they would take suggestions from the audience to do. Yeah.
And there was some cool things about it that it wasn't all just balls to the wall hilarity. The piece about dads on vacation, he was talking about how, I want to be doing this with you while I'm still around. And there was a piece about, two friends parting ways at the end of high school, going off to college. That was kind of touching and also funny. So there were some other elements to it that I really found appealing. And the other thing I would say about it is when you first, you're introduced to an entire ensemble cast, there's 6 people in the cast. I think it was 4 women and 2 men. And, and you don't know them. They come on and they were it all looked very silly. And at first I was like, oh God, what's this going to be? Because it looked a little hokey. And then they settled into it. And by the time, you got to the end, you sort of knew each one of them distinctly as a character, as a performer, and kind of loved them all. So I thought that was really cool.
Totally agree. Yeah, they really do come out and they're doing this really cheesy, I guess now it's Beach Boys inspired running with beach balls and things and such. And I was like, uh-oh, is this about to be Hokey City? And luckily that was just, they're doing a bit. It's
yeah. So highly recommend that one. It's a pretty reasonable ticket. I think they're like $45 there. The Garner Gallery is always a fun place to see a show. You can sit there and have a drink. There's drink service at the tables and all that. So, and then, you mentioned you were at Legally Blonde last week, and although that's closed now, but how would you like that? That was a Sasquatch production at the Pace Center.
That's right. Yeah. And, It is closed as of now when you're listening to this, but it did sell out its closing weekend. So congratulations to the
That's
team
wonderful.
over there. It's always awesome to see theaters selling out. And did not surprise me. The night I was there, it was filled with so many young women in pink. The whole entire auditorium was a sea of pink. I did not wear pink, and I stuck out like a frickin' sore thumb. I felt like a loser. But anyway, I thought the show was very well done in the space. It was, it's a big theater, so they had a massive ensemble to fill it. The two leads in particular, the actress who they had playing Elwoods, I'm blanking on her name, and then Paulette, who was played by Ali Chung, were just incredible. Really magnificent voices and strong performance that anchored that show.
Yeah, I heard nothing but good things about that one. It was funny. I was finishing up watching I watched the season finale of the morning show, and I was thinking about Reese Witherspoon. It was kind of like her big, I don't know, it was one of her first really big movies, and a very, very, sugar pop kind of role for her to start out. And then she went to this, that's some pretty dark places in the morning show. But anyway, yeah.
Although it did feel just like a hair dated in like a little ways. I mean, I guess this like Legally Blonde, the movie, is a little bit older at this point.
I think it's 20 years old.
Like there was a joke about Gene Simmons, and he had just died recently. And so like somebody in the audience leaned over, like when they make that joke, and they're like, "He's dead now." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess he is."
Which Gene Simmons are you talking about?
Is it Gene Simmons or Richard Simmons who just died?
Yeah.
They make a joke about Richard Simmons. Oh, excuse me. They make a joke about Richard Simmons.
Okay.
In it.
Yeah.
And somebody says that. There's an Apprentice joke in there that kind of lands awkwardly now.
Yeah.
And a couple of other like references like that, because they don't update the book. And so it feels very much stuck in like the early 2000s.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's going to happen sometimes with musicals, especially the songs are kind of baked in too. So, all right. Well, we didn't have anything in the mailbag this week, but like as you said, it was nice to hear from see the theater companies posting on Facebook and places like that about our top shows of 2024 so far. So, if you get a chance, check that out.
Absolutely. And if you do want to get in touch with us, please feel free to contact us at info@onstagecolorado.com, or feel free to tag us on social media, either our personal accounts or OnStage Colorado, and we'll see it there.
Yep. All right. Well, so our main topic this week was to talk venerable venues. So I was just thinking about shows.
A little alliteration.
That's right. I was trying to find a V word. There, like I was just talking about the Denver Center Performing Arts Complex is just a fun place to be, just because there's so much happening there. But I was trying to think, like, well, what are my favorite theaters there? And I guess I would have to say the Killstrom, which is in the round space. It's a really beautiful stage that was redone just a few years ago, and it's got all state of the art, like whiz bang stuff that things that pop out of the stage, and they can do water. They did a shower scene a couple of years ago, and things like that. And then we were just talking about the Garner Galleria, which there's nothing fancy about it. It's just a little kind of a cabaret setup, but that's really a fun place to see a show. And even though the Buell is just kind of this barn that's probably in need of some updating, I have a lot of memories from seeing Broadway shows there for the last 25 or 30 years. So it is fun. It's always exciting to walk into the Buell for a big musical.
Totally. And I also really, over in the Denver complex, I really like the Ellen Cochran's upstairs space above the Opera House. There's the loft, the studio loft up there is a gorgeous space. And it's getting more utilized now, but it had been really underutilized for many years, in my opinion. And so I am excited to see so many shows there. The Rocky Horror frequently performs there, and now they've got a whole feast of troops in that space, which I think we'll talk about one of those a little bit later on the pod.
Yeah. I saw there was a dance performance I saw there earlier this year. That was it was a great. It's a big
Hold Tight.
Yes, Hold Tight, and I think they'll be doing another one follow up in the fall. But it's a big
Got it.
space. Two follow-ups.
They've got 2 more follow-ups.
Yeah. So looking forward to those. But the other thing though that's funny is that when I was at the Denver Center last night, my buddy Matt, I was talking to him about how some theaters are struggling to hang on to their spaces, and I said that some theaters are starting to share and find other venues. And as we were driving up to the Denver Center, I was like, and there's that stupid Jones Theater sitting there empty all the time. It's like, why don't they open that up for theaters? It's a perfectly nice little theater, real flexible space but I just don't know what's going on there.
It's a good question.
Yes.
I don't know either.
Well, we're going to do a deep dive on the Jones Theater someday and get to the bottom of that. So thinking about from the total opposite end of the spectrum, a tiny little theater that I just love is the Evergreen Players Black Box Theater up in Evergreen. And it's like, gosh, I went in there and saw a show a couple of months ago. And it's like going into someone's living room. It's that kind of a theater experience. They had cookies.
It's a great way to describe it.
Yeah, so a very intimate theater experience. But the Evergreen Players also have access to the Center Stage Theater, which in a different location, which is it's 100 years old. It's a nice facility. I think they share it with Ovation West and some other folks that perform in there. So that's another one.
Right.
That's a theater I just like going to. Either one.
Yeah. It's a bit of a drive, but it's a beautiful drive to Evergreen.
Yes.
And so
and they do nice
makes
work,
it worth
it. Players.
They do. The CU spaces, over talking about universities, those are pretty nice. So the Row Green Theater remodel is really lovely, and there is no denying that the air conditioning works in that space.
Holy crap! They froze our asses off last week in Mary Wives because we were sitting right in an event, I think, and we were both wearing shorts. We were like,
"That's right."
It was literally one of the hottest days of the year, and we were like, "I want to get back outside."
We had just come from Westward's Tacolandia outside where we had sweated our asses off.
Oh my God.
And then we go into CU's Row Green Theater for Merry Wives, and we froze it. We froze right back up. All that sweat. It was quite an experience.
It's like we were doing an experiment on the temperature ranges that the human body is capable of enduring. Because the Row Green was like going into like a walk-in refrigerator. But yeah, I think another area wouldn't have been blowing right on us. Wouldn't have been so bad.
Totally. And I'm looking forward to the Mary Rippon outdoor space reopening in 2026 with the regraded pathways. And they're also talking about new ramps, handrails, and lighting elements as well to just make the space a bit more accessible.
Yeah. And that's all part of so Helms is like one of the original big, and that's where I spent most of my class time when I was at CU, was in Helms, which is like where all the English majors hung out and, those kinds of liberal arts. And they're redoing that whole building as part of it. So, even when I was in college in the 80s, that was a creaky old building. So it'll be interesting to see how they bring that one back to life. So here's a theater I haven't been to, so I'm going to let you talk about the Arts Hub in Lafayette. Yeah,
so Arts Hub is about a 195, 200-seater space over in Lafayette, kind of in this heart of in the heart of the community, and it's a educational space, but they've also got a really excellent theater, and they've been expanding their repertoire, what they're doing, because they used to be formerly over in Louisville, moved over to the Lafayette area as a part of their expansion a couple of years ago, recently brought in a new leadership over there. And I'm excited to see what they do with this really awesome space there. It's got a really cool outdoor component that right now has been underutilized, but the new leadership is talking about doing a lot more performances out there. So I think that as the years go on, the space is only going to get better and better.
That sounds like I look forward to going there to see a show. I haven't been yet. So, I wanted to mention a trio of mountain theaters that are kind of near and dear to my heart that I love going to. First is Breckenridge Backstage Theater right on Ridge Street there in Breckenridge. It's a nice little space. It's also got some of the fanciest new theater chairs that you'll see just about anywhere. But Jackie Stone is the artistic director up there, and she does interesting, great program. They're doing cabaret up there this summer that our critic Kim really liked. And then on the other side of the county in Silverthorne is Theater Silco, which they operate out of this beautiful performing arts center that the town of Silverthorne in large part built, and they have a great program of stuff in the summer.
and they might win Best View for a theater. It's because the scenic overlook that theater is built on and nestled within the mountains. They've got a beautiful lake there as well. It's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and the theater is literally right on the Blue River, which is a gold medal trout stream. So you can go fishing and then go see a show at the Theater Silco. And then the other one I was going to mention is Thunder River up in Carbondale, which Missy Moore is the AD up there, and there's a theater that's really under her direction is really kind of expanding and doing some great stuff. And I wish it was a little closer. At the same time, it's in a beautiful part of the Roaring Fork Valley up there. So a couple of 3 great mountain theaters to check out, and all that have nice spaces too.
Yep. Bringing it over to the Aurora area to talk about the couple of really excellent spaces over there. First one I want to highlight is Vintage Theater. Their space they've got 3 different theaters, 2 kind of interior and 1 cabaret space. They've got this awesome bar. They've got all this memorabilia from old shows, these really cool photos that really make it from past productions that make it a really warm and inviting space to be in. You really do feel like you're in a friend's house. Because you're looking at all these memories that you've shared together. Even if you haven't seen all these productions, you kind of feel like you're a part of it in that way. So I think that space is just super inviting, and obviously the work that they do over there speaks for itself.
Yeah. It's one of those theaters that kind of feels like you're slipping into an old pair of shoes. It's just feels like a real artistic home.
And it is their artistic home now. They recently just in partnership with the city of Aurora, they are able to purchase that space. They're one of the few companies in the Denver metro area that can say that. So it's exciting for them.
Another right next door on Colfax is the Aurora Fox, which is kind of a mixed bag. It's got some really ancient seats, but they're going to be replaced next summer. So I'm excited to go sit in the new seats at the Aurora Fox. They just got their sign redone. So it's got this super cool classic neon vertical sign out front. I have
not seen it yet. I've got to go just drive over there so I can just see it.
Yeah, I haven't either. Yeah. So it's a funky theater. It's an old movie theater. It was in an old kind of World War II Quonset hut. So it's definitely got some interesting history to it.
Yeah. A really cool space. It's on the newer side. This is inside Denver's Meow Wolf. It's the Perplexiplex stage. It's this massive space just off to the left side. Instead of going into the exhibit, you go to the left and you show your ticket. There's a bar outside, and then you walk in to, it just feels like a bit like this candy acid trip, because there's all this like bright lights and melting stuff that's coming out of everywhere. There's all these screens everywhere, including on the stage, that just give it this really incredible feel. I've seen concerts in there. I've seen comedy shows in there. And whenever I'm seeing it, just the space itself heightens the performances on stage.
Yeah, it is a great space. And they have really cool tech in there. So they could do projections on the floor that are interactive. I was in there once with my granddaughters, and they were like, they can kind of scuff along on the floor and the lights change as they move along. It's just a neat space. It's as all spaces in Meow Wolf are, but I think it's something that they're finding more and more uses for it. So they've got a pretty robust lineup of concerts and comedy and things going on in there. So, kind of another sort of other end of the spectrum is the Wheat Ridge Theater Company's newish space, this is by no means a great theater space. It's in like kind of a strip mall, and there's some posts in the way. So I kind of think of it as like a crappy space, but with a big heart, because Wheat Ridge is doing such cool programming over there. And they really are. Yeah, they're a scrappy little theater company that is kind of fearless. They're not just doing asses and seats shows. They're doing interesting things. So I'm going to be going to their next show coming up, which is a Manny for Us, which is about having a male nanny of some sort for, I think, 2 older guys. So I'm curious to see that.
That's a world premiere production written by a Colorado-based playwright. So that's it. That really is experimental work from that troupe over there. And then over in the historic part of Denver is the Savoy, which is its beautiful, beautiful space. Yeah. It's it's upstairs in this historic building, and They've got a bar that greets you on the way in, this fully decked out, super luscious. There's a greeting space up there that you can stand on, and you can either look out over the window to see the neighborhood, or kind of stand up top and see people going up the stairs as they walk in. And then the theater space itself is what could be described as it's not that big. It's a little bit flat, but they've got every single person who I've seen use that space finds really interesting ways to move it, because the owners over there, Megan and Booba, are super interested and eager to move stuff around, let you make the space your own. And I think that's one of the coolest parts about going to a show at the Savoy is you honestly never know what you're walking into.
Exactly. Yeah, and they have like you said, a great bar, but they also have great bartenders who know how to mix.
Yes, they do.
Craft cocktails, so it's a fun place to go for your before show drink. Another one that's fairly new is Wonderbound. So this is the Wonderbound Dance Company's space in sort of an industrial area, but a beautiful space with great tech, purpose-built as a dance performance space. So really, and even though it's got that new car feel to it, or that new theater feel, it's pretty comfortable in there. And yeah, it's just of course Wonderbound does great work as well. So.
And I love the bathrooms in there. They've got these really massive gender neutral bathrooms in there that make it the lines move really quickly. So that's always a plus, particularly at intermission.
Uh-huh. Yeah, similar setup to Miner's Alley, where there's just
another great space.
Yeah,
another new space.
Yep.
Over in the Golden area. In another completely different end of the spectrum, in a warehouse in the Santa Fe Arts District, Buntport Theater is consistently doing great work in this space that is incredibly unassuming. As you enter it, you're like, am I in the right place? I've parked next to some houses and a warehouse, but you are in the right place, dear friends. And this is another one where as you go in, you kind of see their chalkboard up there that says you're in the right place, you're in Buntport. And then you go behind those curtains that are sometimes obscuring the main theater. And then you walk into that space. And this is another one that you never know what you're going to get. It's
very
flexible in terms of its layout. And so the Bunt Porters are always mixing things up.
Yep. And one of the last times I talked to Brian Colonna, who's one of the Buntportians and who generally does their sort of marketing and PR, was that they have a house across the street from the theater that's just jam-packed with like props and costumes and all this. And he's like, yeah, you got to see it sometime. So it's part of the Buntport empire, I guess.
I had no idea. Now I'm so fascinated to see this house.
Yeah, I know. So, yeah, great. And then another swing back down to like a really fancy new facility is the Ent Center in Colorado Springs. So what would you say about that place, Tony, other than it's new and fancy and big?
Great parking, which is always something that I look for, particularly as someone who drives a lot and has to drive to a ton of different spaces. Their parking is super easy. It's really close to the theater. The theater itself is beautiful. It's got really comfortable seats in there. And I've not had a bad view in any part of the theater, even though it is pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was like a $22 million facility or something. So it's definitely, they dropped a lot of money on it. And it's really become a hub of stuff there in the Springs. Speaking of, municipal art centers, the Arvada Center is also great parking, which is like, you never have to worry about parking at the Arvada Center. There's plenty of it. It's free. So they have, they also always have like this art, new art exhibits hanging up. So while you're walking through to get to the theater, there's always cool stuff to check out. There's like dance classes going on. It's a very vibrant place, kind of like the Dairy, in Boulder. It's got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's like the Dairy, but actually inviting.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a sec. But yeah, they have a great little black box theater and a nice big hall, so they can do some of their repertory stuff in the black box and their big musicals in the big hall. So
don't forget about that beautiful outdoor stage.
Yeah, they don't use that for theater much, but it's not a bad place to see a concert. And part of it's covered,
they do
too.
A lot of summer concerts. Totally,
yeah. All right, what else?
Perhaps a bit of a comedy hot take here, but Comedy Works is obviously the big dog in town, and I won't dispute their venues are pretty good, but I know a lot of comedians I talk to prefer the downtown space, but I don't agree. I think Comedy Works South, which is it's a little bit outside the Denver area, but it's much better in terms of parking. Free parking there. The space is much bigger. The seating is better. Denver Comedy Works downtown, you're kind of fighting with the drunk people who are over in Larimer Square, which nothing against drunk people in Larimer Square. I've been you. But it does make it difficult to kind of navigate around there. That venue is a lot smaller. It's a lot more compact, which makes it great for laughter and hearing that, but it is a little bit less comfortable of an experience. So if you're asking my personal opinion, I always recommend folks go to Comedy Works South over the downtown location. Su Teatro is also over in the Santa Fe Arts District. It's pretty close to Buntport Theater, actually, which we were just discussing a moment ago. And this space it's a really cool space. It's got beautiful kind of carvings in there, cultural carvings. It's beautiful, a significant old building there. Toni Garcia and his team have done an excellent job of renovating and moving in. Massive auditorium there. And they just recently, in June, bought a new space, the Blue Building, right across the street, that is going to allow them to better utilize the 2 theater spaces that are actually inside Su Teatro, which I actually didn't realize until my conversation with them, because I so often just see them use that big space, but because they'll be able to move stuff out and do storage and other educational aspects in their new space, it's only going to allow them to better utilize their current location.
Yeah, that's exciting news.
Which they do own.
Yeah.
So
another one on the list is Candlelight. Dinner Playhouse is kind of, I think its full name, but this was a purpose-built dinner theater that's in north of Denver, kind of in a sort of a agricultural mining, and there's a lot of, it's up there north of Denver. There's a lot of like gas mill, or gas wells and things like that. But great space inside. It's just a big steel building, but they really did a nice job of making a dinner theater there.
Yeah, it's in Johnstown, which I believe is officially being renamed Buckiesville, if I've heard correctly.
Yeah, there's some sort of new gas station up there called Bucky's that I don't know anything about.
It drives all the people mad.
I know. Wanted to also mention some of the great opera houses in Colorado, and a lot of towns have big, small opera houses, but there's this kind of top 5, I guess, that they kind of operate as a circuit in a way. So when I was researching them just a little bit. So there's the Taylor Opera House in Central City, the Wheeler in Aspen, the Sheridan in Telluride, the Wright in Ouray, and the Tabor in Leadville. Was that 5 or 6? So there's a website, coloradoopera.houses.com, that has info on these 5 as like a circuit, and there's tours that you can go on to check them out. And just this grand, place, just grand theaters that have some of them like the Sheridan in Telluride is I don't know if they do much theater in there. It's of course it's well known for being one of the homes of the Telluride Film Festival. But of course the Central City, the Taylor is got the Central City Opera going on there. The Wheeler in Aspen is kind of a multi-use space that is done for a lot of things. And the Wright in Ouray is where our friends, the Upstart Theater, performs. And they, although I haven't been there and I really want to go, they said it's beautiful, beautiful old theater, as well as the Tabor and Leadville. So not necessarily always places you can see theater, but definitely some venues worth noting in Colorado.
Absolutely.
And
I
then,
guess on the other opposite end of the spectrum, a couple of RIPs, spaces that we love, but they're unfortunately gone. BDT Stage over in Boulder. This is the dinner theater, the much beloved dinner theater that closed in January of this year. Great space in there, curved. It sat just under, I think, around 300 people in there, and just a really great community space. They did excellent work there, and was really sad to see them go.
Yep. Benchmark Theater over in Lakewood. This is part of the 40 West Arts District. So the space is still there. The Benchmark Theater is going to be, performing in other spaces. And it's not a particularly remarkable space, but it was remarkable for the Benchmark program, that the theater company was doing in there. So, and also kind of a cool little flexible, comfy little theater.
Old Miners Alley, which was in this upstairs space and kind of the retail part, just across the street from where their new performing arts center is now. It was another kind of fun space. It had its kind of quirks, of course, the posts that they often made fun of in their own shows. But it had a really cool, kind of comfortable bar area that they decked out with sofas that you could sit on and hang out in. It was just really comfortable. It overlooked the mountains there in Golden, so it was really scenic too. This one's a little bit less of a sad RIP because their new performing arts center is also freaking incredible. So it's sad, but also exciting.
Yeah. I always love going into that space in Old Miners Alley. That's Sadie's Saloon, they called it, and they always had some decent beers on tap and things like that. But of course, the new space just needs to be broken a little bit. They've reconstructed the bar, made it bigger, and there's all kinds of cool stuff going on there. But just a very different kind of place. And did you want to talk about Curious Theater?
Oh yeah, Curious they're another great space. Although it is listed on the market, although the leadership there do insist that they will be staying there through their 27th season. So I think they're hoping to get a lease back arrangement that will allow them to stay even if they do get a buyer. But I guess we'll have to see about that. But it's a beautiful space, historic there. It was a church for many years, for several different organizations before being this space that was for multiple different theater troupes who would utilize it, including Curious Theater. They, of course, bought it in 2008, but now just kind of it's getting untenable for them due to rising maintenance costs. So it's a kind of sad, but Susanna Dixon said in our conversation that Curious is more than the building space. So it's definitely, they're going to keep fighting on to keep producing theater in the Denver area.
Yeah, for sure. So the Curious space itself is not dead yet. They're still in there, but sort of probably on the way out at some point.
Well, and if you want to read more about these other theater spaces that we've lost, John Moore published a story in the Denver Gazette about around 30 venues in the Metro Denver area that have kind of been shuttered since he started reporting on live theater in 2001. So check that out.
What's the date on that story?
July 21st. It's today.
Oh my gosh, really? Wow. I had no idea that he did that, even though as we're talking about this stuff.
I know. I was just reading it before we hopped on, and I was like, it's actually really fitting that we chose this conversation because there's that story.
Yeah, well, I'll put a link to John's story in our show notes. So a couple of maybe that we don't like so much, we're mostly thinking about the good stuff, but, we mentioned the Dairy Art Center in Boulder. I find those theaters to be rather cold and impersonal. The seats are new, but they're kind of hard. And I don't know. What do you think of the Dairy spaces?
Agree with everything you've said about the theater spaces. I think that it's a better movie theater. The movie theater that they've got is the Bodecker Theater is actually really cool. It's a really kind of intimate feel, good seats over there. I've seen both movies as well as a live performance blended with a film in there, and I thought it worked really well in that space. And their art gallery is cool that they've got. They've got a couple different ones that they rotate out constantly, but those theater spaces, I think it's because they're trying to be so versatile, but instead it kind of comes off as kind of cold and impersonal.
Yeah. But also a really vibrant art center. There's the the Arvada Center. It's like all this dance classes, and there's just a ton going on there. This film, this theater, this music. Really, it's a fun place to go to. So we talked about the Denver Center, but it's always a bummer to deal with what's called the spiral of death parking lot there, where you get stuck for hours or whatever. And the drink prices are sort of really kind of insane in the venues themselves. So some of the things about the big guy, they definitely have some great theaters, but also some downsides just because of their size and location, I guess.
The spaces over in Parker are all really incredible. They've got a number of different ones, including the Schoolhouse space and the Pace Center. I was just over there recently for Legally Blonde, and while the parking is great and free, easy to get into, just do prepare yourself for a little bit of a delay getting out of the parking lot, because Parker itself is undergoing some major construction right now, which I did not know about. But I was greeted to on my way out of Legally Blonde. So, boo on you, Parker Construction.
And then, they have the schoolhouse space, which just means you have to kind of try and find, a spot to park on the street or something like that, which can be a challenge, but usually you can find something there.
Mm-hmm. The People's Building space over in Aurora it's easily, I think, the clunkiest space in the Aurora area. It's not my favorite, particularly when they have the stadium style seats set up. Mm-hmm. Those are really uncomfortable, particularly if you don't sit on the first 2 rows because they don't have a ton of leg room, actually. I watched multiple patrons vacate those top levels once they realize how tight it is just in that space. And so it's a really cool space over there that rents out to a number of different clients. I just wish that they would invest in some better in the seating. I know that they're doing that so that they can remain versatile, but it does really kind of impact the overall experience.
Yep. Yeah, but kudos to People's Building for creating a space for a lot of different organizations to work at up there.
Totally.
Well, another one is the DU Black Box Theater. You put this down. I'd forgotten about this one, but this one is this place hard to find? I thought
it's so hard to find. And then once you do find it, parking in that area, it's either street parking or you can bow to the exorbitantly expensive on-campus parking fee, which I often do just because I get so frustrated driving around the neighborhood. Yeah. But then once I do get in there, the space itself is very small and kind of dinky. And so it's easily one of the weaker university spaces, but I guess they kind of make up for it by right up the road. They have the beautiful Newman Center that they also utilize pretty regularly.
Yeah. Although we've talked about the Newman Center being an absolute horror show to get out of that parking garage there. So that's,
they have their own problems.
If you go to the Newman Center, do not park in the parking garage. Even if you have to walk 10 minutes to get to the venue, do not park in the parking garage. It's terrible. And then it's been so long since I've been there. You put down Adams Mystery Playhouse is also a tough parking spot.
Parking fiasco. They have their one of their leadership team out there literally trying to direct traffic in the neighborhood just because it's such a mess out there. Every time I have gone. And then it's a cool exterior. It's in this kind of castle space that looks really cool. And the entrance is fun. They've got it decked out. In like all this murder attire and things, mystery stuff, specific to the show you're seeing. But then you get inside the actual theater space, and it's this really kind of flat stage that's pretty difficult to see if you're not close up. And so while it's kind of got this really cool packaging, the actual stage and show itself is a little bit underwhelming.
Okay. All right. Well, that's kind of our impromptu list of theater venues in Colorado that we really love, and a couple that might have some issues, but
so if you want to learn more about the spaces around Colorado, we've got a big list of venues and Google map of the main theaters under the resources tab and /theater companies and venue list on OnStage Colorado, so you can access a big master list and a Google Maps that will take you to actual viewable map that you can look at all these theaters on.
Yeah, I added the Google map just because it's got like sort of the main theaters, because the list of venues is crazy because, lots of things take place in different places. It could be a one-off at a church somewhere. And when we add these things to our events calendar, they wind up in our list automatically. So it's a really big, long list. But definitely, a lot of people visit that page because it's probably the most comprehensive list of theater venues around. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll hear Toni's interview with April Alsup to talk about her musical band. So hold on. We'll be right back. OnStage Colorado is sponsored by the Colorado Fine Arts Center at Colorado College. Tickets for their upcoming season are on sale now and include Dial M for Murder, The City Dog and the Prairie Dog, In Her Bones, and The Naked Mole Rat Gets Dressed. More at fac.colorado.college.edu. Support also comes from the Boulder Ensemble Theater Company, Betsy, whose upcoming season kicks off September 26th with Henrik Ibsen's Enemy of the People, adapted by Mark Reagan. The show runs through October 13th at the Denver Savoy and November 8th through 17th at the Dairy Center in Boulder. Tickets at betc.org. OnStage Colorado is also brought to you by Upstart Theater in Ouray. Their production of As You Like It runs August 2nd through 5th at the Wright Opera House in Ouray. Tickets at upstartmoves.org. All right. Well, this is getting to be a long episode, but we're back, and we're going to talk about our Colorado headliners. So these is a list that we kind of come up with every week of the top 10 or so shows around the state that we think are noteworthy. Coming up soon. So my first one is Hedwig and the Angry Inch. So this is a friend of the pod, Julia Toby's Give 5 Productions. And they had a little bit of the rug pulled out from them. They were originally going to be in Herman's Hideaway, but it's turning into a Latin club. So they're at this venue called The Art in Rhino, which is at 3001 Walnut.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I have seen a couple of shows here done by the group Quintoxica, who they were just recently in there doing Whiskey Dynamite, but I saw them last June when they did Sensatia over there. It's a dynamic space, beautiful. It's so much bigger than Herman's as well. So honestly, I kind of think this is a win for Julia and the team.
Yeah. I was looking at
even though it's a headache, of course.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't want to undermine that, but
yeah. But yeah, I was looking at some photos of the space. It does look really cool. So that's August 1st through 17th, Hedwig and the Angry Inch. You can get tickets at hedwigdenver.com.
Yeah. My first headliner is the Underground Music Showcase.
Yeah.
So this is a 3-day event, July 26th. It's over 200 artists who are going to be performing concerts along South Broadway. This event was originally founded by John Moore, who now works over at the Denver Gazette, and then kind of improved upon by Ricardo Baca, who works over at Grasslands PR. And now it's run by a team of new guys who are kind of continued to build on that success. This will be my first one that I am going to myself, but I'm looking forward to hitting it up and reporting back.
Yeah, I'm curious too. I haven't actually been.
Inspiration from talking. I chatted with Ricardo Baca a little bit about it. He said it was very much inspired by kind of South by Southwest festival in Austin, and so it's kind of more of this just hoppable venues rather than kind of the sweatiness and of the club environment. But
right.
I guess in practical application, we shall see.
Yeah. All right. Well, back at the Buell, the touring production of the Broadway touring production of Wicked is coming back again. So this is a kind of a war horse of a musical, but still popular. And it's going to be there for like a whole month, July 24th through August 25th. Our reviewer Alice Caterlin is going to check it out, and I think we're doing some work on meeting some of the folks there too.
I did. I chatted with the two lead actresses who are playing Elphaba and Glinda. So that piece will be running in Denver Westward. And a little bit of trivia for you, Alex. How many times has Wicked, the national tour, come through the Buell Theater? Oh, it's a good guess. Overshot it just a hair. This is the 7th time the Wicked national tour has come through the Buell.
Okay.
It's popular, but not that popular.
All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah, one of these days I got to see Wicked, but I was actually thinking about going to this one, but then Alice said she wanted to check it out. So We the People, democracy, part of the Democracy Cycle. This is a mashup local theater and the Gunnison Theater Festival and Curious Theater Company. And Betty Hart, when she was on the pod a couple of weeks ago, talked about this. But the first one will be July 27th at the Boulder Library, and that is a free show. So.
My next headliner is 4,000 Miles. So this is Insight Collab Theater, who is Colorado's first and only Asian American theater company. They're partnering with Vintage Theater to produce this play about a bike rider who suffers a major loss while on a cross-country bike trip and seeks solace from his feisty 91-year-old grandmother in a West Village apartment. The play explores how two outsiders find their way in today's world. So that will be running at Vintage from July 25th through August 4th.
All right. This one I think you know more about, but I'll just tee it up. Rise Comedy Festival. So Rise Comedy in Denver has this going on from July 26th through August 3rd. What do you know about this?
Yeah, so they're bringing in folks from around the country to compete in a stand-up competition to crown the top stand-up, which that should be really exciting. And then they've also got a whole bunch of different sketch shows that are coming in. everything from like musical theater riffs to parodies of reality television shows. So it should just be a really vibrant space. They've also got a lot of educational content that is there for specifically geared for people who are interested in learning more about improv and stand-up. So should be a really cool time. 2 weekends.
Yeah, and I've noticed that Rise Comedy does a lot of classes in addition to their performance stuff. So if you want to learn improv or stand-up or things like that, that's a good place to go.
And that's they've really been leaning into that with their new owners. They've just recently completed a successful renovation, and they've added 3 back rooms to their space in Denver that allow them to expand that educational component significantly. So,
that's great.
And they've got some excellent teachers over there. Everybody from like Christy Buckley, who teaches stand up, to Nick and his team, who are in charge of the sketch world. It's really awesome folks over there.
Yeah, great.
Another next? One of my headliners is School of Rock, the musical.
Yeah.
So this is at Miner's Alley. This is Andrew Lloyd Webber's smash hit from Broadway, but it'll be in Golden now. So it's based on that very popular Jack Black movie about a failed wannabe rock star who decides to earn some extra cash by posing as a substitute teacher at a prep school. So you may have seen this musical earlier this year in Parker. But this is another chance to check this one out in case you missed it, or compare and contrast. Yeah. So this will be in that space in Golden at Miners Alley Playhouse, July 26th through September 15th.
All right. Yeah, I think I want to get out and check that out. The last one I had was I mentioned earlier, A Manny for Us at Wheat Ridge Theater. You said, as I said, it's a world premiere. So it's about a couple, two gay guys, married seniors, that chart a course to maintain freedom by hiring a male housekeeper, a Manny. So this is running July 26th through August 11th, and I'll be out there. I'll be at it later this week, so I'll have a review of that.
Yeah. So my final 2 headliners are, first is the Mile High Dance Festival. So this is by Cleo Parker Robinson, and it's a 1-day event on July 27th at Benedict Park. It's free admission. Food and vendors open at 2 p.m. There's a youth show from their program at 3. Live music starts at 5. And then their main performance by the Cleo Parker Robinson Troupe begins at 6 p.m. So that should be a really fun, free event that's cool for the whole family to get out to. And then my last one is a one-man show. It's Till Death Do Us Part, You First. So this stars actor-comedian Peter Fogel, and it's coming to Lakewood Cultural Center from Off-Broadway, August 1st through the 18th.
Okay, that sounds cool. All right, well, that is it for the Colorado headliners. A couple of other new reviews or upcoming things on our website. We'll have a review of High School Musical. This has been kind of hanging fire there for a while since there was an issue with power when our reviewer Carrie first went there, and she was having trouble rescheduling. So anyway, so we'll have that. And then Karen Mason up in Summit County reviewed the Amish Project at Silka, which is a one-hander about a school shooting back in the aughts that she thought was quite good. Emperor of the Moon, we have a review of at the Ent Center in Colorado Springs from our reviewer April Alsup. The aforementioned Cabaret at Backstage that Kim Nicoletti did a story about. I'll have something on Second City from the Garner Galleria. Eric is going to the Vagina Monologues at Theater Company of Lafayette, and also 4,000 Miles at Insight Collab. And then we talked about Darkfield a little bit, but you were going to do a little story about that too, right?
I am. So I'm going to be attending Darkfield next week. I was able to get rescheduled after having to miss the opening night, but I'll be going there and then chatting with its creative. So I'll be talking with them a little bit about what inspired the installation, and then I'll be asking them the ever important question: what about that air conditioning, man? What happened?
Yeah. So when I wrote my review of it, I was kind of underwhelmed by the whole thing. But you said the CityCast podcast was kind of down on it too. What were they saying?
They labeled it the DCPA's flop.
Ouch.
So in their recent segment, I know, but cutting. They do not mince words over there on CityCast Denver. Bree Davies and her guest, Keith Garcia, were talking a little bit about it over there. this week. I believe it was their Friday episode of the podcast. So if you want to listen to their full segment on it, but they did not enjoy the experience. And they talked a lot about kind of the air conditioning problems that existed there. It was really, it's these bunkers that these facility is in. And you talked about this last week on the podcast, and you mentioned it in your review as well. But the bunkers are really freaking hot, particularly in the heat of summer. And I don't think they were prepared for that. And so Charlie Miller actually ended up sending out a statement about it where he was kind of apologizing for it and noting that they were going to be addressing it. So I'm curious to chat with the folks to hear like what happened and what they are doing to address it.
Yeah. Well, my recommendation is that they go over and talk to the HVAC folks on the University of Colorado Boulder campus to see what they did in the Road Green Theater there. They have like the nuclear powered air conditioning there that would probably really help cool down those shipping containers sitting out of the parking lot there on Larimer Street. So, all right. Well, hang on. Tony's interview with April Alsup is coming up next to talk about the musical Band.
Baptist Church in Denver. I am sitting at the piano with composer and producer of Band the Musical, April Alsup. How's it going, April?
It's going great.
Well, thank you so much for making some time to chat with me today about your musical, the process of composing and putting together, expressing yourself through song. So, can you tell me a little bit about how long you've been a composer for?
I've been writing music my entire life. So my mother and I would sit at the piano, and it was never about notes on a sheet of paper. It was always about creating bells and whistles and lightning and thunder and creating stories. So that turned into a passion for music theater. So I've been really writing my entire life.
When would you say you first wrote your first song?
Oh, gosh, that is funny. It was, "Why does she love me? Why do I hate her?" or something like that.
Yes.
So
a love song, unrequited love.
Right. It was silly. But certainly before 10.
Before 10. Wow. So really you've been prolific composer then your whole life, it sounds like.
Prolific might be pushing it, but I certainly have been doing it my whole life. It is a way for me to connect and cope and live in the world.
And what about musical theater kind of speaks to you?
Yeah, I probably got through high school because of my drama teacher. So he was a wonderful man, small, and he had the ability to throw me against the lockers and tell me to get my shit together. And so I was always a theater kid. I was a thespian and a mummer, and I never had much ability to act, but I always loved the theater and sort of gravitated to the technical side of things. And when I was just coming out of high school, I won a drama festival in West Virginia, and the professor took me to Yale to introduce me to the world of theater and the real world. And we went to Broadway, and I met George Eisenhower, and
whoa,
yeah, it was wild. So he changed my life. I was a little naive, and I didn't have the math skills to get into Yale. But he opened my eyes to a world that I had never seen before. So in some ways, he got me out of West Virginia and on my way.
And how long have you been located in Denver?
Gosh, I moved here in '89, so I grew roots, and I have a family. I have 2 boys and a daughter. So in '89, I moved here, and gosh, I've been here the majority of my life now. Now, I was in New York and I was in LA 2 times each.
Sure.
And I certainly have been in a lot of other places, but I love Denver.
Yeah. When we met last year. It was actually in this space here at the First Baptist Church in Denver when you were rehearsing for a different musical. It was Egg the Musical that you were just preparing. to take to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Yes.
Can you tell our listeners just a little bit about that musical and what it was like to go to Scotland?
Well, it was a wonderful success. We won the Broadway World People's Choice Awards, Best Musical, and the folks in Edinburgh loved it, and they called me towards the end of 2023 and said, got anything else? And I said, yeah, I got something else. And so we've built a rapport with the folks in our venue in Edinburgh. And it's a different world. You know, Fringe is a 60-minute show. So most of my shows, I tend to gravitate to 90-minute shows. And with Egg and Band, we've cut it down to meet the format. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience. It felt like the folks in Scotland embraced the work and kind of called it their own, because in some ways it is their own. I had gone to the festival in 2019 and visited the Fringe shop, and there were some lovely people there, and I was on my way out to Egg to do some research with some of the Islanders and get a better idea of, you know, what happened in the community buyout.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about kind of what it was like to do those multiple performances in the venue, setting everything up in there, and just making sure it's in time?
Yeah, it's a 60-minute format. We don't use a lot of props. There's not really a set. I think that it's super immersive, and so most of the venues in Edinburgh are black boxes, and our theater is a black box, maybe the size of the chancel here, and it's very immersive, and the actors really get to be engaged with the audience, and the audience engaged with the actors. So I love that format. I think that the audience also has to use their imagination, and that's a good thing too as well. So I love the format in Edinburgh.
Yeah. So you're going back again. You just mentioned that they asked you if you had anything else, and you did. You've got Band, the musical. Can you tell our listeners just a little bit about what this musical is?
Sure. Well, at a high level, it follows a group of gender misfits called the Organized Confusions to a local performing arts festival called the New Horizons Festival. So it's a gender bender, but it's different than what we've had in the past with Priscilla and Hedgewick and Angel and Rent and Lola and Kinky Boots. Those shows are a bit more around an icon. They're kind of Vegas fabulous, and this show is really about normal people, normal as we can be, with common skills and normal talent. And so it's campy. It's not, the trans community has a pretty large spectrum of characters, let's call them, and those characters are in the show. So I decided not to concentrate on one specific niche of trans. I tried to get a group of trans folks that all meet together at the Gender Identity Center. And so a lot of the show takes place in the Gender Identity Center, and of course a watering hole nearby.
Yes. And so the show starts with a song called World Wide Web, which you were telling me a little bit earlier. It's similar to Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet, and that all these characters are kind of introducing themselves. Can you say a little bit more about that before you play a bit for us?
Sure. So the show has a juxtaposition between characters online and offline. And so we see the interactions that they have with each other, both online and offline. And I think that's poignant because we all seem to be something different online than we are in the real world. So we experience some of the complexities with love and sexuality, and they must all sort of learn acceptance and authenticity through the course of the show. World Wide Web starts on the web, so we're sort of in a fantasy world. It's just the web, the World Wide Web, where we can be the things we want to be, and nobody knows, and anything goes. Now, at Fringe, we have to get through the exhibition pretty quickly, so all the characters are introduced here. Chuck D, for example, searching for female, interested in sex. When I'm online, I can be anything. I can be what I want. I can let out my masculine side, and I'll even have a big cock. It's just the web, the World Wide Web, where we can be the things we want to be, and nobody knows, and anything goes. Now, I won't go through all the characters, but we do.
A bunch of people get introduced here and on the World Wide Web in this song.
And then when I'm online, I come alive with all my desires I've hidden inside. Create my body, create my face, create the person that I was meant to be. Create my reality beyond my body. Now, this is them all chatting online. I'll go right to the end. It's the fucking Here we have the ringtone. Everybody has phones.
Everybody's got to have a ringtone.
And you got to find out. You find out. This is top secret. Do you want to know? Yeah. Okay. I love you. I love you. I love you. Anyway.
I love that. It's so beautiful. Can you talk a little bit about some of the musical inspirations that you're kind of playing with in this piece?
Well, in some ways, since I'm part of this community, I've been writing these songs my entire life. So this is a pretty easy show for me to put together the songs for, because I'm inspired. Music has always sort of been emotional, and that's when the songs come out.
You mentioned that there's this character in there who is also, they're a musician as well, and they have an I Want song in there.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? What is the thing that they want?
Well, music, I mean, certainly the music in music theater is part of the script and the story and the dialogue. So it sort of says it in the song. All the characters, I think, would embrace this. It's, there must be a reason for this travesty. I was born a man, and that is plain to see. If you know the reason, I can't change this feeling. It's inside of me. I was just dreaming, always dreaming. I have been dreaming again. So we go into a dream world here. La, da, 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 da.
Is this also online, or is this a separate place from that web?
This is all on the web. And we have a marriage scene. So all the characters are involved here. It's hard for me to play it and do the dialogue. Marry me. This dream could happen to me, 'cause I don't believe someone could love a person like me. But some dreams come true. Now I might have skipped right to here, because this is really the one. With this ring, I give you my heart. I promise, from this day forward, you won't walk alone. May my arms be your shelter, and my dreams your home. I can't believe that this dream could happen to me, 'cause I don't believe someone could love a person like me. Some dreams come true. Some dreams, you should hear Blake sing that, come true.
Beautiful, April.
Thank you.
So how long have you and the team been working on Band the Musical, getting it ready?
Well, I reached out to Kelly, who directed it last year, directed Egg last year, and that was back in February. I don't think that the cast has all been in one place till today. Downstairs, we're getting together and we're really starting to put the show together. Now, we certainly have been rehearsing the music and some of the choreography and those kind of things. I think that Edinburgh is a pretty big carrot for actors here. And so I really have the ability to get some of the best actors in town. And so they're busy.
Yeah.
And that means that we're doing rehearsal for a show with 9 people in it, and with 4 and 5 people, and doing videos of the choreography. And it sort of makes it difficult, but I would say today's our Shit's probe, and we're getting ready. So we're at Vintage Theater on the end of July, the last weekend of July. Our first show is on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So that is July 25th through the 28th. Their tickets are already available on Vintage Theater's website. So for folks locally here in Denver who want to come cheer on the band team before they head off to Scotland, Vintage Theater's location is the place to do it.
Yes.
So before I let you get on to the Schlitz probe and did I say that right?
Yeah, I always want to say Schlitz probe. Like, give me a Schlitz.
Yeah, but it's shit, right?
I think, yeah.
I think so. All right, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Before I let you get off to to work with the rest of the team, can you want to play us a little bit of the finale of the piece? You playing it for me earlier, and it was super touching, and I think it'll be a really nice way to kind of leave our listeners. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, we started with the song that was the character who is a composer. That a lot of the characters are sort of the characters in the musical she's writing. Mm-hmm. So we circle back around to the piano. And, you know, like all music theater, we tie off all the threads.
Everything gets wrapped up nice with a bow.
Yes. Well, it's just like a good friend. Someone you can talk to. And it's just like an old friend. Someone who's always there for you. Anna, you're as real as anyone I've ever met. I can see it in your eyes. I can hear it in your music. But you can't go around living life defined by others. You don't sing because you're happy. You're happy because you sing. Now, of course, it's top secret. You don't get to hear what happens next.
Folks will have to come out to Vintage Theater July 25th through the 28th if they want to find out how Band the Musical actually concludes before they head off to Scotland for your performance at Greenside at the Rivers Court from August 2nd through August 10th as a part of the festival. Thank you so much, April, for making some time today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Yes, surely. Thank you, Toni.
All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode. Thanks to April for joining Toni on the podcast to talk about band. Next week, we'll have a fun interview I did with Colleen Mylott, who's the artistic director of Band of Toughs, which is one of my favorite immersive theater companies that they don't do a lot, but when they do it, it's really cool. And so they're a new immersive production, Gin and Gothic, a Bronte rock tale. Zooms in on the sisters Bronte while traipsing about the nooks and crannies of the Ellie Calkins Opera House at the Denver Center, August 2nd through 24th. And so Colleen's joined by her sister Janet Mylott, who's also part of the company. So it's sisters talking about sisters kind of thing next week.
That sounds really cool. I had not heard of Band of Toughs until I got the press release about this production, but now they are very definitely on my radar, and I'm very excited to see this upcoming production of theirs. It sounds super cool, inventive, and kind of unlike anything else that's happening in the Denver metro area. Yeah,
it's neat that they have kind of the run of the Ellie, and the last thing that they did one called Nervamlet, which was a mashup of Nirvana and Hamlet, and you kind of wind up taking
that sounds amazing.
It was really good. They wind up taking you to kind of these weird places inside the Opera House, as well as some of the the common areas. So it's kind of a fun way to get a little tour of the Opera House at the same time. You enjoy the show. So I'm looking forward to going to that one. All right. Well, please subscribe to the OnStage Colorado podcast, wherever you get your audio stuff, as well as our newsletter online, which you can find a sign-up form on our website. Let the other theater lovers in your life know about us, and be sure to check out all the reviews, news, other podcast episodes, and our full statewide theater calendar on the website at onstagecolorado.com.
As always, we really appreciate you tuning into the podcast. please feel free to rate the show on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you're listening in from. If you do, we might read you out on the show.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Well, thanks so much for listening. I'm Alex Miller.
And I'm Toni Tresca, and we'll see you at the show.
Woo-hoo.